Sunday, July 6, 2026, center court. The final ball drops, and it does not fall on Alex Eala's side of the story the way you wanted it to. Jasmine Paolini takes the third set. The match is over. No trophy, no quarterfinal, no perfect ending waiting at the end of the fortnight. And here is the part that does not fit the scoreboard. Alex Eala walked off that court carrying something she did not own 2 weeks earlier. Not a title, not a ranking milestone, though that came too. Something quieter and heavier than both. Proof. Proof that the best players in the world were no longer standing on the other side of a wall she could not climb. She lost the match. Read that again because it matters. She lost. And the loss may have expanded what she believes about herself more than an easy win ever could. That is the strange arithmetic of this tournament. A defeat that added instead of subtracted. Let me be precise about the stakes, because precision is the whole point here. This run made Alex Eala the first Filipino player to reach the fourth round of a Grand Slam in the Open era. Not the first to enter the draw, not the first to win a round, the first to reach the second week of a major ever in the modern history of the sport. It is more than 5 decades of professional tennis fans watching the second week of a major from the outside. And it happened on grass. Grass is the surface that rewards the players who grew up on it, the surface with the shortest season and the least forgiving bounce, the one where reputations are supposed to protect the established names. That is where the wall came down. Not on a slow court that flattens the gap between players, on the fastest, most traditional stage the sport owns. If you have been in this corner since before the world started calling Alex Eala a threat, subscribe and stand with the people who saw the belief change before the ranking did. This channel is for the fans who understood that the mindset shifts first, and the numbers only catch up later. Now rewind. Rewind to the version of Alex Eala who walked into Wimbledon 2026. Talented, yes. Respected, absolutely. Dangerous on her day, no argument. But there is a gap between being dangerous and knowing, all the way down, that your best tennis holds up against the very top of the sport on the biggest court in the world. That gap is the whole story. Call it the old ceiling. Not a ceiling anyone else built for her, a ceiling made of an open question. Could the results that turned heads at smaller stops survive contact with a defending champion on grass, in the second week, under the weight of a Grand Slam? Nobody knew. She did not know. That is not a criticism, that is honesty. Belief that has never been tested is just hope wearing a confident face. Here is where I separate what is fact from what is interpretation, because this channel does not blur that line. Fact. And she walked in as the reigning Wimbledon champion. Beating her is not luck you can wave away. Not leave that match undefeated. She left it convinced of something specific. This was not confidence built from compliments. It was confidence built across the net, point by point, against the champion herself. Now a lesser script stops there. Beat the champion, roll credits, milestone secured. But the more revealing test came after the upset, and it is the part most people skip. Because beating Świątek creates a problem of its own. What do you do the very next match, after the emotional peak of your career, when the adrenaline drains and the draw hands you Jasmine Paolini, a Grand Slam finalist in her own right, a player who does not flinch? The honest answer is that a lot of players deflate. The upset becomes the whole tournament, and the next match is a soft exit. That is the trap. Alex Eala did not deflate. She lost to Paolini, yes, but she lost across 3 sets. She competed. She made a proven top-tier opponent earn every game after the highest high she had ever felt. Interpretation, clearly labeled as interpretation, that 3-set fight matters more than a clean win against Świątek would have on its own, because it answered the harder question. Not can she rise for one match, can she keep standing when the fairy tale is over and the tennis gets heavy again? She could. She did. So put these 2 matches side by side. Exhibit A, the Świątek win, proof the ceiling was never real. Exhibit B, the Paolini loss, proof she could keep competing at that altitude even after the peak. One says she can beat the best. The other says the level was not a fluke she stumbled into for 90 minutes. Together they say something the ranking cannot say by itself. And then there is what came afterward. Here I am careful, because this channel does not put words in an athlete's mouth. I am not going to hand you a dramatic quote she never said. What is on the record is this. In her public comments after Wimbledon, Alex Eala spoke about growing confidence and larger ambitions. She expressed a belief that she could compete with anyone, while openly acknowledging how deep and unpredictable the top of women's tennis really is. Read that carefully, because the nuance is the point. She did not say success is now guaranteed. She did not claim she is suddenly fearless. She did not present the run as a finished arrival. She framed it as evidence that more is possible. Possibility, not promise. That is a mature athlete describing a real shift without overselling it, and it is far more convincing than any slogan. She moved from hoping she belonged to expecting that she could compete. That is the transformation. Not with no strings. It is a new standard she now has to meet, tournament after tournament, on surfaces that will not always favor her. That is the honest antagonist in this story. Not Świątek, not Paolini. Neither of them is a villain here, and I am not going to invent a rivalry that does not exist. The real opponent going forward is expectation itself. The gap between proving you can do it once and proving you can do it again, and again, when everyone is now watching for it. And there is a second edge to that same blade. She said it herself, in her own words, that the top of women's tennis is deep and unpredictable. That is not false modesty. That is an accurate scouting report. On their day. So the proof Alex Eala earned at Wimbledon does not clear the road ahead. It raised career high. Not a number she inherited or a number that drifted her way. A number she earned by beating a defending champion and reaching the second week of a major. Every position above her now is a name she has reason to believe she can reach. She lost in 3 sets to a Grand Slam finalist. She went home ranked world number 28, a career high. And somewhere between the first ball and the final handshake, the question quietly changed. It stopped being whether Alex Eala could compete with the best. It became how often she could do it. That is the threshold she is standing on now. The hard-court season ahead, the next Grand Slams, they are no longer auditions to see if she belongs. They are tests of whether belief can become consistency. Whether the level she reached for 2 weeks in London can turn into the level she lives at. That is the unresolved part. I am not going to pretend to know the ending, because nobody does.